We're right back with you after Sean Salisbury talking some NFL football. We have got Jerry Reynolds. We got Ryan in Sacktown. We've got a lot to talk about as the Kings get ready to open up a 7-game road trip. Great to have you here on If You Don't Like That.
3, 2, 1, go.
Sacramento miscue. Carter. Stolen by Williams. And look at this. Oh, you don't like that. You don't like NBA basketball.
Fox. Goodbye. Oh, if you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball. The exclamation point from De'Aaron Fox. Oh, if you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball.
Boy, that's an ESPN highlight right there. Whoa. Carlson comes in. How about this? Holy moly, Jim Bob Foley. That is a major league smush.
And we got Jerry Reynolds. We got Ryan in Sacktown. Gentlemen, good to have. Well, gentlemen, I use that term loosely when I'm around you guys, but gentlemen, it's good to have you here. How are you, Jerry?
Pretty good, fellas, and great to be with you, gentlemen.
I want to get your expertise on this because you were both a general manager and you're a head coach. It's been a lot of talk, particularly on this show, about De'Aaron Fox not speaking with the media the last couple of weeks. I quite frankly don't understand it. I don't understand why it hasn't become a bigger story. I said this, Jerry, the late Marty McNeil, who we both adored and loved, Marty would have never put up with that. Marty would have demanded an answer from the Kings, and if not, he would have gone right to the NBA and demanded an answer. Aileen Voisin, she had her critics. She wouldn't have put up with that. Ari Graswich had his critics. He wouldn't have put up with that. I don't understand the Sacramento media just like going along with this. De'Aaron did speak with the media earlier today. I just watched it. I think it's embarrassing the way this whole thing has been handled. But, Jerry, I wanted to ask you, personally, I don't understand why the Kings are allowing this, and I don't understand why the NBA is allowing this. But as you, as a former coach and general manager, how would you handle it if you had one of your best players who, for whatever reason, was blowing off the media after every game?
Well, I think you'd basically go to him and say, "Look, this is required. This is required, and it's a finable offense." The team really, this is not a good look for the team. It's not a good look for. Actually, it's really not a good look for De'Aaron.
Terrible.
He's hurting his own cause. I mean, he's a classy young guy who's made a bad decision in my part, or in my opinion. And so you want to say, look, the good, bad, and the ugly part of it. If you want the good media, you got to deal with the bad media, and what comes with it are questions you don't like. That's all part of it. And so it's very surprising. It's but I think the biggest party that really shares the guilt is the Kings themselves, because they're in a position. I think, of course, the league could even step in even further, but it has to start with the team to say, you've got to talk to the media. You're a star. You're a major young star, and they want to hear from you, especially when things are going good, you get the credit. When things aren't going so good, you need to step out there.
Ryan?
Amazing insight, Jerry. I think one thing that's important to note here is De'Aaron Fox, this isn't out of character. With his social media account, in the past, he has been quick to snap back at some media members that have been critical. I think the other side of what Jerry said here, if this is an organizational thing and the organization has any type of responsibility here, I think it's best with the way the team seen as it seems to be affecting the product on the floor, that something happened and this move forward somehow.
Yeah, well, I thought his press conference today was a joke. I thought the media was just, I don't understand it. There's no other market in the country that would allow this to happen with the degree of questions that is forthcoming at De'Aaron. And again, it's puzzling to me. All right, Jerry, Cody says you got a nice fresh haircut and you're looking sharp. So I want you to know that people are noticing how good you look.
Well, thanks, Cody. I really do appreciate it. And yes, it is a new haircut. And I even, before coming on this show, I showered and cleaned up for you. For you personally, not these two guys. For you.
All right, let's get to the basketball side of this now. I don't know what's going on with De'Aaron, but to me, I haven't seen the real De'Aaron Fox in several games now. And if I don't see the real De'Aaron Fox beginning tomorrow, I think this is going to be a bad road trip for Sacramento.
Yeah, I mean, he can be, in fairness, De'Aaron could be back to where he was one of the elite players in the league, and they could still have a tough road trip. I mean, road games are hard to win, and I guess especially some good teams. But I agree with you. I mean, he has not played to the level that we expect. It's one of those people say, well, the Kings have got a pretty big window for a championship run or something like that. And no, the window is only open as long as Fox is playing at the championship level, like he was, where he was one of the 10 best players in the league for a few months. Quite honestly, he wouldn't be one of the top 50, right? 40 or 50 in the last 4 or 5 games. And, I think I was reading the King's Herald, and some guy made I thought a good comment. He said, De'Aaron has been good, but the Kings need De'Aaron to be great. And that's true. And that's what we've come to expect. And I think, we have a right to probably expect it because he's shown us he can do it.
Yeah, no doubt, Jerry. Here's what I would add. It puts added pressure on the rest of this Kings team, as the gentleman in the Kings Herald said, when De'Aaron's not great. And we see this team has done what they've done thus far this season with players being inconsistent across the board. De'Aaron cannot be one of them.
Well, all right. So we got a 7-game road trip that we will be analyzing beginning tomorrow. The Warriors play tonight. Jerry, the only thing that is even close to this, but it didn't happen during this season, correct me if I'm wrong, was when Ricky Berry took his life. And you and I were a part of that, but you were much closer to it than I was. And we had his dad, Bill Berry, and I mean that was just horrible. I'll never forget that. But I don't know what the Warriors are going through right now. I don't know what this does to the team. I don't even know where to go with this question other than that's the only situation that I can remember within my 32 years of being involved with the Kings where we were dealing with a death and the suicide of Ricky Berry. And I know that brings back awful memories for you.
Well, it sure does. And I mean, of course, Ricky was on the road to being an all-star. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind about that. But good kid, just didn't see it coming. Didn't see it coming. Like a situation, obviously this wasn't a suicide, but a young man in his middle 40s just dropping dead, in front of basically the team and they all liked him. I think it's obviously traumatizing. I mean, it's traumatizing, and it's one of those things that you have to move on from, and I'm sure the Warriors will. They've taken time off, but it's going to be even tougher for them, because they've got to make up the games and everything like that. But yeah, I would think, in all honesty, that players, generally speaking, it goes to all sports. It's like when you have tragedies in your family and things, that actually playing the game is the real release, because it's the 1, 2 or 3 hour period where you can get away from the hurt, and so. So I don't know, but I would expect that the Warriors will be back to themselves here pretty quick.
I remember the war going on in, formerly Yugoslavia and what was going on in Serbia and Vladi during that period of time. When you saw him before the game, you were just like, wow, this guy's been up all night. He looked like he was not going to be able to play, but for the 2.5 hours, I actually think during that period of time, it may have been the best basketball that he'd ever played, because it was just kind of like, wow, okay, he can remove himself from that short period of time. And then right after the game, he'd be on the phone trying to find out if his family was okay from the constant bombings going on. So, I don't know what to expect from the Warriors. It's obviously a traumatic experience. It impacts everyone within the organization, but people handle death differently. People handle tragic situations differently. I don't really know what to expect from the Warriors beginning tonight.
Spot on, Grant. Here's what I would share. We went through a situation when I was in college where we were playing just pickup games. Somebody passed away right in front of us. And it was with all the guys on the team. And they were doing something we loved, playing basketball, someone our age. So when you see something like that, and you can put yourself in that somebody's shoes, that can sometimes change the dynamic. So much like the situation you guys described, that can be hard and it affects everybody differently. So no way to judge it or kind of guess what's going to happen today.
Yeah, I always remember the the Brett Favre game where his father had passed away, and he obviously very hurt, but he
Monday Night Football
had maybe the greatest game of his career individually, and that was kind of the same thing we've been talking about. It's like, well, he got away from the trauma and the pain and just playing the game.
Jerry, what do you think? Would you take a 4-3 road trip right now? Ryan and I were saying earlier today and yesterday, in a heartbeat, I would take 4-3 on this road trip.
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, in a heartbeat. You just you place the wins and losses where you want. Just get the 4 wins. I'd be on board with that.
I think you look at this long road trip. You have one back-to-back. Don't know yet whether Halliburton will be back for the Pacers game. But even without Halliburton, the Pacers were able to beat the Kings. They didn't have Pascal Siakam. They'll have him. The back-to-back is the next night in Chicago. We know the Kings haven't exactly done great on the second night of back-to-backs. You play a Dallas team in the second game who you spanked big time earlier in the season, but you caught them at a great time because they had played in Milwaukee the night before. I really believe that tomorrow sets up this whole road trip, Jerry, because the Warriors, to me, regardless of what's going on in their locker room, and I can't even put myself in that situation, but so I don't know what to expect. But the Kings are a better team than the Warriors this year, and they've got to win this first game. I think tomorrow sets up this whole road trip.
Well, I don't disagree. And the other part of it, it's really not a road game. We call it that. I mean, by rule, just like it's not a road game for the Warriors when they come to Sacramento.
Good point.
Not really. And so that just makes it even more of a reason to win. And so I agree. I mean, I think the Kings are the better team, and they need to start off the trip, with a win. And it's I think a little bit of extra pressure.
Well, it's going to seem like a road trip when the truck pulls up with all the luggage, and you have all the stuff that's on the truck for a 7-game trip.
Yeah.
And sometimes you wait 45 or 50 minutes because your bag's the last one to come out. That's
it
always
is the last one.
Ryan, I got to tell you, traveling, sometimes we'd get to places at 3 a.m. and it would be very cold. Now, you had 2 options, okay? You could check into your room, come back down, and get your bag that's been unloaded and tagged before they actually deliver it to your room. But on a long road trip or a road trip, if you waited for your bag to be delivered to the room, assuming that you got to the hotel at 3 a.m, very often you wouldn't get that knock on your door until like 4 a.m. or after. So we would go down and you'd be looking through all the hundreds of pieces of luggage, seriously, to see where your bag is. And then you would grab that bag and get the hell out of there and get to the elevator and go up to the room. Jerry, I don't miss those days at all. I really don't.
No, that was probably the worst part of it, And as you know, we always slept our own bags, and got so a little strategery where, like, say, you check in and take your carry-on bag up and then come back down. And of course, I had, being the brilliant man that I am, I put all kinds of little special tags on my bag, different colored ribbons and stuff, so I could pick it out because they're all black,
Yeah, I know, it was crazy. It was crazy.
It only took me about 10 years to figure that out, Ryan.
It did, but we always knew where Jerry's bag was because it looked like the Ringling Brothers Circus coming.
It really did.
I don't know about you guys. I may have had my stuff shipped to each city. So it was just waiting in my room. But hey, I want to leave before we have somebody on the line. I want to get to Rich here in a second. I want to leave you with this note about the road trip. Maybe hitting the road is exactly what the Kings need right now. Get away from the noise, get on the road, and get back to normal. So you guys are welcome to join the show. That's Grant Napier. That's Jerry Reynolds. We get to Rich in San Diego. Rich, you're on with Grant and Jerry.
Hey,
Hey,
what
Rich.
an honor it is to be on with two icons in the history of the Sacramento Kings. Thanks, you guys, for having me on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diego.
Jerry, I have to tell you, you're making those two guys on the left of you, as I see them on the left of you, look bad, okay?
Well, yeah, I can't help it. It's just, I mean, when you got it, you just got it.
That's awesome. So I heard what both Ryan and Grant picked for the road trip. I want to know what your pick is for the road trip out there in the next 7 games, Jerry.
I really would be thrilled at 4-3. I think there's a chance of that, and I think the key to getting there is to win tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think you just have to get a win in Golden State, or the wheels could come off significantly. I mean, I want to be wrong on that, but I really do believe that to get to say a 4-3 or successful road trip, the win tomorrow's is a must.
Yeah, right on. Well, I wore my tie-dye shirt today because, when you think of guys think of San Diego, I'm sure you think about Bill Walton too, We're all covering the streets in our tie-dyes down here in San Diego, okay?
Well, I was going to say, Bill Walton, there's only one. He is truly a one of one.
There is, and I have to tell you, I've had a couple run-in, about 2 or 3, interactions with Bill. And I have to tell you, one of the best ones that I had with him was a nightclub down here that he was at. It's called the Belly Up Tavern in Solano Beach. And the headliner was a Marshall Tucker band. But his Deadhead sort of band, Moon Alice, opened. And between the two shows, I walked up to Bill and I said, "Hey, excuse me." I says, "I don't mean to bother you, but I just want to let you know you're blocking a bunch of those people's view behind you."
Love it.
That's the way
Well
it was.
done, Rich.
That's the way it is when he does TV. I always know, he had that basically big cherry head set on because of his back.
Right.
Exaggerated version of what even Phil Jackson had. And
Blocked several people's views.
He blocked about 3 rows, being 7 foot or thereabouts and all that.
You should see him on his bike, Jerry, in San Diego. Oh boy.
That's a scary sight, or thought of a sight there. But,
Yeah, I do a lot of riding. I just hit 8,500 miles on my e-bike today.
Wow.
Yeah, so Bill and I, we're kind of like side by side heading down the street, But
That a boy. Well, Rich, thank you so much for calling the show. World Traveler.
Right
Rich.
Where are you going to next, Rich?
Next is Istanbul.
Istanbul.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yeah.
Report
out
back
that way.
We want to report on that, Rich.
Okay. All right. I'll be back with you guys, and thank you for the great entertainment.
Thank you, buddy.
All right.
All right, Rich.
That
you in
is
the,
Rich.
Rich, since he's been on this show, he's called us from, he was just recently in New Zealand. Then before that, he was in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Then before that, he was in Portugal. Before that, he was in Thailand, in Phuket. The guy, that's what he does now. He's retired and he travels the world. Good for him. The problem with Jerry now, Jerry's not getting on an airplane to go any more than maybe 30 minutes. Okay, so that's Jerry wants you to report on it, but don't ask him if he's going, because the answer is no, he's not.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Rich. I mean, if I'd love to go to New Zealand, but it's a more than a half-hour trip, so I will never get there. It's short of learn how to transpose me like they do on Star Trek or something.
I just booked using my miles. I'm running out of miles, by the way. If anyone wants to give me some miles, I'd really appreciate it. I just booked yesterday a JFK to Singapore on Singapore Airlines, the longest flight in the world. I've only done that flight from Singapore to New York but now I want to go from New York to Singapore. So I just booked that so I can go on the longest flight in the world. Jerry, I believe there's a seat open next to me. If you would like to join me, I would love to have you company on that flight.
I'll tell you what, if you get somebody to pay me $150,000, I'll do it.
Jerry, I just want to stop you really quick because the last time we started down this road, our heads ended up shaved. So you're saying $150,000 gets you on the plane next to Grant JFK all the way on the longest flight of the world.
It would take exactly that, not 1 penny less.
Well, $150,000. Do you get taxed on that income, Jerry, or is that just no taxes?
Well, it probably legally have to be taxed. I might try to see. I would pursue all options on that. By the way.
Hey, so I want to tell you. Hang on, I want to tell you about New Works Plumbing. They've got a fix for you. All you need to do is call the number on your screen or go to sackserviceplumbing.com. They've got a fix for you. And here's the deal, 24/7. So we always tell you, Jerry's got, emergency in the middle of the night. All he needs to do is get a hold of New Works Plumbing, and they will be there. Again, sackserviceplumbing.com. That's New Works Plumbing. They've got a fix for you. Yeah, my camera's got a short in it, Jerry. That's why it keeps on going, in and out. And there, I'm back. There we go. Kind of. There we go.
Yeah, part of yours back. Yeah. You come in second.
Hey, Jerry, I have good news. When Grant was doing the live read, we actually got a private message from a Mrs. Reynolds. She is donating the $150,000 for you to go on that trip with Grant.
Yeah, she might be selling off a few of her assets in order just to get me out of here.
And Jerry, Singapore is one of the prettiest, cleanest cities in the world. I think you'd enjoy Singapore, Jerry.
I think I would too. I know there's a lot of Istanbul.
It's a great walking city, Jerry. Great walking city.
Right. If, like I say, if you could move it to about 20 miles outside of Placerville,
that's so. If it's 20 miles from there, you that's doable for you, huh?
Yeah, my range is South Lake Tahoe. That's it. On the east, and I don't go west. I'm not going anywhere near San Francisco.
Hey, let me tell you something. You see the message on the chat line. Singapore is beautiful and very clean. No gum allowed. Let me tell you something. Yeah. I bring gum when I'm in Singapore, and I always have gum, and I haven't been arrested yet. So they might say no gum allowed. You can't buy gum in the stores, but I have plenty of it in my suitcase, and I'm taking it in. So just want to let you know. So the next time you see me on the new episode of Nat Geo Locked Up Abroad, I brought gum into Singapore.
Multiple gum violations.
Hey, Locked Up Abroad, Grant Napier, bringing gum into Singapore.
If they try to pick you up on gum, just tell them you'll never take me alive.
My God. All right, so we got. All right, we've deviated off this thanks to Rich from San Diego. All right, so the Kings tomorrow. Getting the Warriors on the second night of a back-to-back. I'm really curious to see what the Warriors look like tonight, based on their layoff and everything that's going on, to see whether this galvanizes this team. And the reason why I say that, guys, the Warriors have been awful. They've been terrible. Does this bring this team together and get them whatever, I don't know what the word is, but they have been bad.
Yeah, some of it, obviously not just this terrible event, but the Draymond Green, it's been a team that's been, just torn apart all year so far. My concern is that as long as you got Curry and Steve Kerr as a coach, they'll find a way to get back on track. And I would be surprised if they don't do that. I'm not saying they can move up into the top 4 or 5, but to me, they'll always be scary because they're like the Lakers. You want to beat them so much. It puts, and you have to, Curry still can get 50 and beat you.
Yeah, that's right.
If I'm the Warriors, I'm looking at the schedule and saying, okay, that's our get right right there. That's the Kings. We just beat them in 7 in the playoffs. We beat them to start the season. I would feel that way about this Kings team. So it'd be great to see the Kings come punch them in the face.
I think a lot depends on Fox, and I hate to keep on putting everything on Fox, but if the Kings are going to go 4-3 in this road trip, they're going to need the De'Aaron Fox that we are accustomed to seeing. If they get the De'Aaron Fox that we've been seeing as of late, they're not going to win 4 games on this road trip. They're not good enough without De'Aaron Fox playing at that level, in my opinion. They're just not. They can't make up for him not playing at his all-star level.
Well, here's the good news. I have not seen anything defensively that teams have done to stop De'Aaron. I think this has been more of a De'Aaron thing. Jerry, have you seen anything defensively?
No, I mean, I think teams certainly prepare for him, but I think it has been a case where it seems to me he's been disengaged, for big parts of the game, and he really needs to be the guy to make things happen, and we know he can. So, yeah, having said all that, no, I think De'Aaron is capable of getting 30 on anybody every night, type thing, and the Kings need that from him.
Yeah,
30 points on 22 shots, 21 shots.
You see your chat message. My theory is that Fox knows Barnes is getting traded and is upset about it. Well, your theory is wrong. Okay. Players that play in the NBA understand that trades are part of the game, and that's part of the deal. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Okay. This has been going on for a couple of weeks. You think that he knows that Harrison Barnes has been getting traded for a couple of weeks? That has nothing to do with it. The bottom line is something's going on with De'Aaron Fox. He doesn't have to disclose it. It's nobody's business. If something is going on off the court, that's fine. It's not my business. It's not anyone's business. He doesn't have to disclose that, but he does have to do his job, and he does have to talk to the media. He's not the only player playing in sports that's got personal issues going on, assuming that he does. Okay. He's not the only person in society that has personal issues going on. They still go to work and they still do their job and they still do it well. And we can go on and on. Okay. When a pilot gets into the cockpit and has personal issues, you're still expecting that, the plane takes off and lands the same way as if, the pilot had just won the lottery. Okay. You still got to go to work. You still have to do your job. And De'Aaron has not been playing as well as he's capable of, and he has been neglecting his duties with the media. And I'm concerned about that. If you're looking at the big picture, and I always look at the big picture with the Kings, there's no way this Kings team can succeed this year. And by succeed, I mean make the playoffs and win a playoff series with this version of De'Aaron Fox, in my opinion. I just don't see it.
Well, no, the NBA is a talent league, and we talked about that. It always is. I mean, that's why, so-called great coaches that are, like a Kerr or Popovich or Pat Riley or whoever, when they don't have really terrific players, they have 17, 18 win seasons. They didn't get dumber. It's a talent league. And on this team, De'Aaron Fox is the most talented player. Now, the thing I would like to know is if he's suffering some minor injury that's affecting him. He should divulge that. The team should let us know.
Yeah, it has to. You're required to put it on the injury report.
I mean, in other words, it's certainly possible that he's, he could have a sore heel or it's kind of a strain that wouldn't keep him from playing, but we'd understand that you can't play your best. And that's all I'd want to know. I mean, it's certainly like Sabonis last year with the thumb. They didn't hide that. Now, I expected it to affect him a lot more than it did. It didn't seem to, in spots, but he had a hell of a year. But, anyway, that's if that's the case, then he's got an out, and we need to know it.
Yeah, Mike, I'm gonna get to that question really quick, because that looks like a lot of fun. But Jerry, we had somebody on the post-game show last night mention they thought something with De'Aaron's shoulder. They're noticing something with him tweaking that off shoulder. Do you see anything in his game the last couple of weeks that said that?
Well, I've seen him tweaking it too. Whereas all of us knows when something is a little off with you, that you'll kind of tend to, kind of want to feel it, what kind of loosen it up and all. So I wouldn't, to my point is, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. But
that wouldn't prevent you from talking to the media, though.
Not at
Yeah,
all.
good
Or,
point.
or the team from it saying, look, De'Aaron's playing, but he's got this minor injury. And, which we've seen guys before. I mean, where they come back from a sprained ankle a little quick. They weren't, I think Keegan came back a little earlier than we expected him. But anyway, I just think there's a reason to have a little more transparency. I think it benefits not just the team, but the players.
We got a question,
Amen.
Jerry, about some any good trade deadline stories. Jerry, I'll let you answer this question, but to me, I don't think there's a better story, and it was sad in a way because I witnessed you going over and telling Ed Pinckney that he had been traded, and then having to get a hold of Joe Klein, who was at the hospital with his wife, who was in labor with getting ready to give birth to their first child. I can't imagine you have a better story than that.
Well, yeah, that was one of the saddest things, and I got to put it in context. I was the coach. Bill Russell was the general manager. He traded those guys, but he told me, you've got to tell them, and you've got to get in touch with them. He didn't. Bill didn't want to go do that. Well, I didn't either, but I was an employee. So, and Ed, it's one of those things. As Ed Pinckney, one of the good guys.
Love him.
He really loved it here. He and his wife, and they didn't want to go. And a lot of people, so much of the national media and people say, oh, the players don't want to be inside. No, majority of the players over the years have really liked it here. And Ed was that example. He did not want to go to a championship caliber team in Boston. He preferred to be here. And of course, Joe, like I didn't know his wife was in labor. I just called him. Then it's one of those things where, they called him while his wife was giving birth. Well, I could have called him while he was in a 3-car wreck. I wouldn't have known. You're just calling a guy to let him know what happened. And by the way, it was a good trade. It got Danny Ainge and I think Brad Lowhouse, which is part of the deal. But I mean, Danny was clearly the best player of that trade by miles. So
well,
anyway,
you always make a good point, Jerry. In retrospect, I mean, that was the best thing that ever happened to Ed Pinckney's career.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where Ed was what he was. He's a limited role player, but it kept him in the league longer than he probably would have been, and of course had a nice coaching career too later on. Ed, but with us, with the Kings, he was supposed to be one of the 3 or 4 top guys, which self-explanatory. He was.
And one of the great performances in the history of championship game in the NCAA tournament, Ed Pinckney.
Oh, that was a perfect game, of course, before the shot clock and where they could milk the clock, but they made about 75% of their shots the entire game. And Harold Presley and I think a guy named Harold Jensen was just had one of those out-of-body experiences making every shot. But it's one of those things that what I think makes basketball great when you have those great upsets, and that clearly was. And of course, in today's game, with the shot clock, it's even less likely to have a major upset.
Back to Joe Klein real quickly. I want to follow up on the Joe Klein story. He told me, Joe, and anyone that's ever met Joe, and I really mean this, you're not going to find many people that don't like Joe Klein. Joe's one of the great people that I've been around in all my years of being in pro sports. I love Joe. I loved everything about him. But, he left his wife and newborn. You had 72 hours back then to report. And he went all the way across the country to Boston and did not end up seeing his wife and newborn for over 4 weeks. All right. So, and listen, people talk about pro athletes. They're paid a lot of money. Yes, they are. They have a good life. Yes, they are. But I always say this because fans don't ever think about this. Imagine walking home from work one day, okay, and you find out that you have to be on the other side of the country to start a new job in 48 hours, and you're going alone, and you don't think about that. And again, I'm not saying you need to cry for these guys, but that's the other part of pro sports that we don't talk about enough. It's sometimes can be brutal. And that was an example of what Joe Klein had to deal with.
Hey,
No
let me
doubt.
tell you, hey, I got to tell you one story though, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
The other side of it, I want to tell you that, and you're right on everything you said. I mean, because the guys have to live in a hotel and all that and be uprooted. But the other side, Joe told me once, I think he'd quit playing, but he hadn't officially retired from I think the Bulls was his last stop. And, he played on a lot of championship caliber teams without actually playing. But but anyway, he said he was driving home from in Arkansas. He'd been somewhere fishing or something, and the general manager of the Bulls or somebody called him, or assistant GM, and said, Joe, how would you like to make $1 million? And he said, I really would like to do that. And he said, well, we got to put you in. You're not officially retired, so we can put you in a deal to go somewhere, but you won't have to report. It just makes the cap work. And he said, count me in. He said, that was the best fishing trip I ever had.
Hey, you know what? Pro sports, man, it's absolutely unfreaking believable when you hear stories like that. I mean, aren't the Mets still paying Bobby Bonilla, millions of dollars once a year? They're still paying a guy that hasn't played there in ages. It's unbelievable,
Yeah, laid
so
the model out for Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah. Tomorrow, all right, pregame with Rhino, halftime with us three, and then we'll do the postgame show as the Kings take on the Golden State Warriors. Jerry, I'm still looking. We have not yet quite reached the $150,000 mark for you to go on that flight to Singapore with me, but there's still time. Okay.
Yeah, there is time, and just remember, not a penny less.
Okay. Well, I'll count the money for you, Jerry, just to make sure that it's all there. Okay.
Now for 50,000, I'll fly to San Francisco. How's that?
I'll book that trip for you, Jerry. I will book that trip for you to fly to San Francisco. You will be going via Hong Kong, but I'll make sure that you get to San Francisco. Okay. I'll go, Jerry, here's your 50,000. Here's your flight to San Francisco. And he gets his Cathay Pacific ticket with a 5-hour connecting flight in Hong Kong.
Well, tell you what, you may have another DB Cooper pack here.
DB Cooper.
some old gray-haired guy just jumped out the exit.
Yeah, well,
DB
Cooper, I just want to let you know, Jerry, it's a great story, but, he did do that over land. Flying to Hong Kong, I just want to let you know, I sure hope that you have some contacts in the Pacific that can pick you up via boat, because, you're not going to be jumping out on the land, okay? You're going to be in the Pacific Ocean.
I will take my chances swimming 10 miles rather than stay on that damn flight, I'll tell you that.
Oh, my God. Where else do you get programming like this?
What's going to happen after the 10-mile swim, Jerry? What's going to the other 1,000 miles going to be?
Well, I think I think we know how that would play out. But
oh my goodness!
Wow. All right. We'll say so long on that note, and we will look forward to doing this all over again tomorrow, and we'll see what happens with the Kings as they start. This is a real crucial trip based on the way things have been going, and the All-Star break can't get here soon enough if you are the Sacramento Kings. Jerry, we appreciate you. Ryan, thank you very much. And everyone else will be back tomorrow. Ryan with the pregame show at 6:30. Or is the game tomorrow at 7:30 or 7 in San Francisco? I can't even remember.
I don't know off the top of my head. I will tweet it.
All right. Ryan will be with you 30 minutes before tip. So long, everybody.